Poison Ivy, issue 28. G. Willow Wilson writing with Marcio Takara on the art. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, so where we last left Pam, she was surrounded by the Green Knight members, and they're all telling her she's the Messiah. And she's like, how do you know this? And they're like, well, the what do they call her? The first disciple had a dream, and it was a dream about Pam defeating Woodrue, and that this she would be clothed in a living armor and vanquishing the false prophet, who would have led them to death and destruction. So she's like, okay, that's super weird. How does anybody know this? And she finds out from this member of the organization that they started in Seattle, where Pam started, where the kind of the whole idea with the fungus was going to pop up. And then so that leads her to tell the group, is like, well, like, look, I can't be your Messiah without consent. Like, I don't want to be into this. And they start to surround her. And she starts telling them, like, look, Batman's already on my neck. Like, I can't have you guys doing eco-terror in Gotham. So you need to stop. And that's where, like, well, no, you're supposed to lead us. And like zombies, they surround her. So she has to go into, like, a defensive maneuver where she hits them with a low grade of toxin. So they all pass out. And through her narration, she's like, oh, they'll be fine. Like, I hit them with the low dose. They're going to have some really weird dreams. Hopefully that keeps them off my back. So she gets out of her poison ivy form back into Pam to try to, duck for cover. And she starts heading back to the marsh town. And as she's going, she feels like she's lost her way. And she was walking on a path, but as she let her mind wander, the path disappeared. And then when she started focusing again, the path showed its way. And she's like, okay, why is it doing this? I guess I have a lot on my mind. I'm just not paying attention to where I'm going. And then as she looks up, she is surrounded by fog. And there's this big red-eyed creature standing in front of her. And it looks really sinister, right? It's all in shadows. It has like these big protrusions coming off of it, red eyes. And it's just staring at her. And she says that she just gets this feeling like she should know who this is, but that, she can't explain what this particular thing is, but she knows that it's not good. And another voice comes up from behind her, and it's another like swamp entity who calls herself, what is she? I can't find it. It's the Venus of the Bog, or the Bog Venus. And she's a member of the Parliament of the Trees, and she lets Pam know that creature that she just saw was Xylon, who's the Shepherd of the Gray. So essentially, the gray is to mushrooms and fungus what the green is to plants. And that the Bog Venus explains to her that when Pam did the Lamia spores, it broke this truce that the green and the gray had, that they wouldn't mess with one another. So when Pam came and put them together so she could create her plant zombies, it upset the gray, and now the gray have sent out their swamp thing basically to make things right. The Bog Venus is like, I'm not here to scare you, but there are consequences to your actions, and I'm here to warn you of it. And so Pam starts arguing that, like, I never chose this, like, the powers came to me. And the Bog Venus was like, well, yeah, it's this defiance that led you into this, right? Is that we can feel in the Parliament that the Parliament needs change, but you have to accept that change. Like, we're not just going to give you access to the green in that way because you're reckless with it. She's like, once you figure this out, you'll know, and we'll reach back out to you. And her parting words to Pam are, not every obstacle is a punishment. Sometimes it's a gift. and the fog dissipates. Pam starts finding her path back to Marshview, and as she comes up onto it, there's a big knock on the door. Wakes up Janet from HR and Killer Croc, who apparently have just had sex. Janet gets up in a very sitcom-y style, trying to cover up, put clothes on. She ends up putting her shirt on backwards and totally acting like, in that over the top. There's nothing wrong when there's clearly something wrong. Croc is a little bit too shifty, and even Pam notices, and she's like, "What are you two up to?" And Janet's like, "No, I'm always like that. Ever since I've been hanging out with you, it's made me manic and super weird." And Pam was like, "Yeah, that checks out." And Croc makes a hasty exit, and she's like, "Well, why are you sneaking away now? I thought you guys were here to help me." They let her know that they found something going through the sewers and that it's big, but they're not quite sure what it is. So Pam's like, "Well, I'm going to go look for it." And Croc and Janet are both like, "Well, no, we're not going with you. We have stuff to do." So Pam gets upset, realizes that like if it's this big thing that doesn't want to be seen, it's probably not dangerous. So she starts going through Marshview, and it seems like the closer she gets, we get more of this, a closer view of this figure, and it almost seems like a Swamp Thing. Like it has the big kind of hulking shoulders. And yeah, so after not being able to get a clear view of this thing, she goes back and decides like, "Hey, I have to go back and deal with the Green Knight group." But at the same time, I feel like from what the Green is telling me, I'm supposed to stay here in Marshview because it's calling to me. It's where I'm supposed to be to solve these. And as she goes to leave, the fog comes back, and she keeps walking, and when it clears out, she's in Seattle. So she's been transported to, kind of where everything began and ended. And yeah, it's the art by Takara is fantastic. Like some of these creatures are super moody. Xylon, is it Xylon? Xylon, the Shepherd of the Gray, looks like a cryptid. He kind of reminds me of like Mothman or a Bigfoot, but just with these, kind of spiky things coming out. And just his art with these monsters against just how gorgeous he draws the people. Like even Croc, there's a certain quality to him. It makes those creatures feel even more otherworldly. And then all of the action in the front with the Green Knight is full of tension. And when it ends with Pam standing over them, it's almost like kind of poster quality of an image. Like it kind of, if you get rid of the text, it kind of looks like what you would think of Poison Ivy of, right? She's this beautiful redhead standing over, these people that she's defeated. And yeah, the story is really, her trying to figure out Marshview and her place within the Green, and if her presence using the Lamia spores has really upset the balance. What does that mean for the Green and the Gray and the Red and all of that? So are we going to see some of these other parliaments start to pop up through all of this? And how does, again, this disappearing in the fog town that seems stuck in the 50s, how does that play into everything? There's a fun mystery there. So, I'll give Poison Ivy an 8 out of 10.